The New York Rangers just continue to be the absolute weirdest team in hockey to begin this NHL regular season, as the Rangers have continued their absolutely horrible home start, as this team currently has an 0-6-1 record at home games after that terrible loss to the New York Islanders, where this Rangers team once again got shut out at home, and it's now been 5 of 7 home games to begin this season for the Rangers. They have gotten shut out in and have scored 0 goals. And the even kind of crazier part about that is, they've only scored 6 goals total at home, and 5 of them came in one single game where we saw, a Taylor Raddysh hat trick against the San Jose Sharks. So the Rangers, in, not counting that Sharks game, have 6 games played at home and have a single goal across those 6 games if you take out that big loss, 6-5 loss there to the San Jose Sharks in overtime, like I said, where Taylor Raddysh and, Macklin Celebrini had their hat trick. So it just goes to show that this Rangers team is just absolutely weird. I mean, I never expected them to be the absolute kind of best team in the NHL to begin this season. I didn't think they were going to finish in the top 5 or top 3 in the entire NHL. And I also didn't expect them to be a kind of bottom 5 team either. But I could have never expected them to be, like I said, so good at away games and then so bad at home. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, to see a team play, quite good, I think, in away games and then that bad at home. And it's not even like this team is just playing, kind of just slightly bad at home. They're playing absolutely terrible. To be shut out in 5 of 7 home games in any stretch, but especially to begin a season, is just ridiculous. And, this is a Rangers team that I think, does have some good talent there, of course. You got some good offensive weapons like a Panarin, a JT Miller. Obviously you got a guy Trocheck out right now, and he's, definitely a loss for this team, as he did end up, leaving in that second game of the season, of course. So that's a big loss for this team. Your number 2 centerman, 1-year top offensive weapons, but that's just no excuse for how bad this team has been offensively, especially at home. I mean, overall, this team has taken some major steps up just in general in away and home games compared to last regular season, where the biggest problem was definitely the poor defensive play that was a major issue. And now this season we're seeing the defensive play overall, even at home, although it's not as good in away games, it still is pretty good and definitely much improved from last season. But it's the offensive play that, even in away games, this team is still struggling to be able to find the back of the net. And the weird part is, we see game after game, for the most part, these advanced stats come out, talking about the expected goals. Like always, they've come out, year after year now. This isn't just the first season, but, we keep seeing this Rangers team, for the most part, they're either about tied or maybe just below the other team or a bit above the other team or maybe even way above the other team in expected goals after each of these games. And it just isn't making a whole lot of sense. I mean, I get this Rangers team is creating some good chances, but they just can't seem to finish. And I mean, that has definitely been the biggest problem. I think they are, for the most part, they're creating some pretty good looks. And it's not to say that, the other team's goalies aren't playing good and, they're not playing pretty solid defensively at moments, but the Rangers, analytically, it kind of tells you they're getting a lot of really good high danger chances. And for the most part, more than the other team, it feels like, on average per game. And to see this team continuously have these scoring struggles is, a little annoying to see, of course, as a Rangers fan. And I do hope it changes at some point, but after, game after game now, we just keep seeing the exact same thing where, they create some chances, they can't score, and, especially at home there, of course, they're just not doing anything offensively, it feels like. So I don't really know what can change to really kind of fix this, but obviously they've got to figure something out pretty soon, because this team, I don't think is a bad team. I obviously know they're not playing the greatest hockey right now, but they're not far out of a playoff spot right now. As of recording this video, they have 1 more game played than the 2 wildcard teams and have 2 less points. They have 16 games played, 16 points, so the Rangers do, and then the Detroit Red Wings and Flyers are in the 2 wildcard spots in the East, and they both have 18 points in 15 games played. So it's not like the Rangers are, way back right now and they're way out of a wildcard spot even right now. They're right in the mix still, and they're not even that far out of a, spot in the division as well. They're not that far out. So I think it just goes to show that although, yes, this Rangers team isn't playing their best hockey, I still think it's kind of nice to see at least, they are still somewhat in the mix there, even after having all these major struggles. And I mean, we know as Rangers fans, this team has had some big, big issues, and they're still not that far out. So I do think there is a silver lining there that if this offense, like I've mentioned in previous videos, if it can come around to being at least about league average, this team should definitely be a playoff team for sure. But the way they play defensively, with how the goalies play for the most part there, and Igor's had a couple little shaky starts, but I think overall, Quick and Igor have been really great in net and have both been improved from last season. So I think that's definitely a good sign there. The defensive play and goaltending for the most part has been really good. It's just the offense that I think has been the biggest issue so far. And like I said, if it really can come around to even a bit below league average, I think it would be a pretty incredible thing for this team and would definitely help them win way more games, because right now this Rangers team offensively is the worst in the entire NHL. And no offense to these teams, but to see the Rangers below teams like the Calgary Flames and Seattle Kraken and Buffalo Sabres, I mean, it's just tough to see. And I think it goes to show, like I said, that this team isn't necessarily that far away from maybe being at least a pretty good playoff team, because their offense has been that bad to where if they can just figure out how to score, a little bit more, and like I said, just go up that little bit extra, I think they can be a really, really good team. But it's just this offense has kind of completely dragged this team down, and especially in home games, they just cannot score. I mean, to have 6 home games where in those games combined, you have a single goal across those 6, I don't even understand how to explain that. I mean, how does that happen in the NHL? It just makes no sense. This team has had some major problems. They've been in lucky moments for sure. They've obviously played against some pretty good goalies and, overall just good teams that are strong defensively, but it still can't be game after game where the Rangers are just going up against some, super good goalie who's playing, lights out, or a super good defensive team. It's just not the case. The Rangers are creating chances. The analytics say that, and they're not, everything, obviously, I get that, but game after game, it shows that the Rangers, for the most part, are creating some good opportunities, but just aren't able to capitalize and actually finish those chances. And like I said, the Rangers do have the absolute worst home record of the entire NHL, which is 0-6-1. The next worst home record in the entire NHL is the LA Kings with a 1-4-2 record. So definitely, quite a bit better than the Rangers. That's an extra 3 points there, which is, a decent chunk, especially this early on in the season. Then you take a look at the away record, which, of course, the Rangers have the best at 7-1-1. And then you take a look at the next best team. That is the Anaheim Ducks with a 6-2-1 record. And these are the only 2 teams in the entire league that have at least 6 wins away as of recording this video. So it goes to show that the Rangers are just so drastically different from one side to the other. They are clearly by far the absolute worst team in home games by a really good chunk there. And then at home, they're the absolute kind of best team at home by a pretty good chunk. So it's just the complete opposites there, where they're so good away compared to so bad at home. And it really is frustrating to watch, because I definitely do think this Rangers team has what it takes to be a playoff team. And if you can get there, you have a goalie like Igor, and you have an improved coaching staff now with, Mike Sullivan and his crew. And then you've got I would say, much improved defensive core. And I think overall, this team and kind of roster as a whole is built in a much better way compared to the last few kind of 2 most recent playoff runs, those Eastern Conference Finals. I think this team is built much better than those 2 teams. So I think it goes to show, if this team can make playoffs with a goalie like Igor, anything can truly happen. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video, as it would help the channel out a ton. And I always do love hearing your thoughts and opinions on, especially right now with how bad this team has been, in home games compared to how good they've been away. It's definitely a really weird spot this team is in right now. So let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.